Friends, welcome back to our Revelation Bible study in the homework edition. This is our third homework edition here, and now we're looking at Revelation chapter 12, verses 7 to 17. So in chapter 12, we see a woman, a heavenly woman. Pardon my drawing. A heavenly woman, and then we see a terrible dragon. Man, this is not good, but there's the teeth and fire coming out of his mouth. Here's the dragon. And we're told that this woman is in labor. She is the embodiment of Israel. The whole story of Israel through all the Old Testament is the story of this of God's people, Israel, that are yearning to give birth finally to the Messiah. Finally to give birth. And in the story of the Old Testament, you see again and again, these birth stories are a story of hope. As Sarah gives birth, as Rachel gives birth, as Hannah gives birth, and then in the New Testament as Elizabeth, and then Mary finally gives birth to Christ. The whole people of Israel are giving, is a picture of God giving birth to his Messiah. And last time we saw this in Isaiah chapter 66, verses 6 to 9. So she is a picture of all of Israel, of God's people, yearning in birth, laboring faithfully to God to give birth to the Messiah. And then the serpent obviously is the devil and Satan, as we're told in our passage today. In Genesis 3, it's important to remember, as we looked at last time, that there is Eve, and there's the serpent, and they're going to have a battle, and then Eve's son is going to be in a battle with the seed of the serpent, which equals this dragon. So basically, the child of Eve is Christ, eventually. And the child of the serpent is this dragon. And this is the cosmic battle that's going on throughout the whole Bible of the forces of evil against God and God's people. And now we're seeing this play out. This dragon wants to destroy the woman, and just like in Genesis 3, the serpent, the evil one, Satan, always wants to destroy the seed of the woman. And notice this is what happens in the book of Exodus when Pharaoh wants to kill the babies and almost kills Moses. This is what Herod does when he tries to kill the babies when Jesus is growing up. It's always destroying the seed, the little ones of God's people. So Pharaoh and Herod killing baby boys. That's a picture of this right here. The serpent, the evil one, always wants to kill the babies, the baby boys of God's people, and Pharaoh and Herod do that. And it continues. So Satan is going to use different people in history, like Pharaoh and Herod, to do this. And at this point, as we're looking historically where the story of Revelation is following the story of Acts, and after the story of Acts, Nero is going to be the Caesar Nero in the year 64 to 68. He's going to attack the church. And so like Pharaoh and Herod, he's going to kill baby Christians, or kill Christians in general, but wants to kill Jesus and his followers. All right? And so there's this cosmic war going on. In verse 7, it tells us with the angel Michael. Now, Michael, the archangel, it shows up in chapter 10 of the book of Daniel. If you want to learn more about him, I would go and look there. Daniel's a difficult book, but you might as well just flip through and start reading Daniel chapter 10 to see. But there, Michael the archangel is doing battle on behalf of God's people against the other spiritual forces of evil, the other satanic forces. So Michael is kind of the guardian angel of God's people. Some people think Michael is Jesus before Jesus becomes a human, before he is born. Some people think Michael is kind of like the deputy angel for Jesus, kind of Jesus' secretary or assistant. But either way, we know that Michael is one of the highest angels that there are. So, Israel's guardian. The book of Daniel will also talk about the angel Gabriel that you see in the beginning of Luke, where Gabriel comes and tells Mary that she's going to have the son Jesus. And so now there's this heavenly battle. A war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought. So this dragon has a bunch of fallen angels. Okay? And some people have talked about how, and some in the early church have talked about how throughout the Bible, there's not just one time that that the fallen angels fall, but there might be multiple times. Obviously the serpent has already fallen before the Garden of Eden in Genesis 3, and then maybe there's another fall in Genesis 6, and now we see there could be a new fall again, and we're about to see that as God is casting out these fallen angels, and Michael and his good angels are fighting against them. Okay? So now they're fighting, and this is war. Okay? But they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan. It's called devil and Satan. He's cast out. And we looked at this before, but in Luke chapter 10, verse 18, Jesus says this. Jesus said, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. I saw Satan fall from heaven like lightning. Behold, I have given you authority to tread upon serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall hurt you. So that's what Jesus says in Luke chapter 10, and it connects right here. Jesus sees Satan fall from heaven. So in a sense, Satan, this dragon, and his fallen angels are trying to destroy the woman's child, Jesus. And so in Jesus' whole life and ministry, he is seeing this heavenly battle take place. Remember when Jesus is tempted in the wilderness, who is coming to him to tempt him? The devil. And so that's part of this battle right here. The devil has been doing battle with Jesus his entire human life, and probably even before that as well. And so Jesus, in his ministry in Luke 10:18, sees Satan cast down. He's seeing this battle take place in the heavenly realm. And now Satan is cast down to the earth. Now, a lot of times we think of Satan or the devil as an official title for the evil one. Sometimes we think of it almost like a proper name, just like my name is Stephen, and say, oh, well, this is the devil. But actually, it's a little more complicated than that. So, devil is a description. The word devil means slanderer. So if you said something bad about someone in public to other people, that's slandering them. That's what the devil does. He's the father of lies, Jesus says. So he's a slanderer. But then Satan is a kind of title. It's like, I'm a pastor, that's a title. You might be a lawyer, that's a title. So Satan is a title, and what the Satan means, often it's called the Satan, and Satan is like a prosecuting attorney. So in a court case, the prosecuting attorney is the one who wants to get you condemned, who is sure that you did something wrong. And so the devil is the description of that he's a slanderer, and then Satan is the one described as the accuser. So he's accusing, he's always accusing, and he's always slandering. We know that our God does not do either of these, but the evil one, Satan, does both of these, all right? He slanders and he accuses. Verse 10, then I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ have come. For the accuser, that's Satan, that's another word for Satan, the accuser of our brethren who accused them before our God day and night has been cast down. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb. Remember, we looked at that in the 7 letters of 7 churches. How do they overcome? By the blood of the Lamb. And by the word of their testimony. And they did not love their lives to death. You know when Jesus says, those who love their lives will lose them, but those who deny themselves and love me will be saved. So that's kind of what this is referring to. Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea. For the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, because he knows that he has a short time. All right, so this is key. So the devil is cast down to the earth, cast down for a short time. And this short time is the beginning of the tribulation. So now it's the tribulation. Satan has free reign to torment and destroy people in this life. But then, pretty soon, Satan will be judged and banished. Soon he'll be banished. And when he's banished is when the kingdom will finally come. And when Christ will be all in all. And that's at the end of the book of Revelation. So soon he will be banished. Now when the dragon saw that he had been cast to the earth, he persecuted the woman and who gave birth to the child. But the woman was given 2 wings of an eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness to her place where she is nourished for a time, times, and half a time. Now we remember that in Daniel chapter 12, we get this times, and half a time. This is 3.5, which is how many months the 2 witnesses are or how many years the 2 witnesses are prophesying, and it's how many days the faithful are being persecuted. So this theme of 3.5 is coming up again. The 42 months or the 1,260 days, it all equals 3.5 years. 3.5 is half of 7. 7 is the perfect number. 3.5 means it's a broken or midway point between that perfect 7. And so this is a waiting period. 3.5 years where the woman is hiding in the wilderness. This is the church, as we talked about last time, who is being provided for. God is protecting the church even as they're being persecuted. God is providing for them. This is like we saw where God tells John to measure the temple. Remember, and God's people are like this temple, but he doesn't measure the outer courts. So he's protecting his people when he measures them. We talked about that before. That's what's happening here as the woman is in the wilderness being protected. And so now in the rest of the chapter, we see that this dragon is called the serpent. And that goes back to Genesis 3. In Genesis, where the serpent is tempting Adam and Eve in the garden. And this dragon is going to spew out water. This is like false doctrine. This is the false doctrine of the early church, and this is persecution. The devil's going to spew out false doctrine to the church, and they have to be able to resist it. This is the false doctrine that even Peter falls into in the letter of Galatians. And this water is almost going to become like a kind of flood, like the flood in Genesis. But God is going to protect his people. And so that's kind of where we leave off here as we head into chapter 13. I hope the Lord blesses you and keeps you this day. Thank you for joining.